I was born and brought up in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I never felt liked in Argentina for some reason. I was like odd, I was different. I spent the time kind of making drawings in my little studio. I really always had a studio. Somehow, somewhere in the 50s, we went with my mother to Europe by boat. Maybe I was 8. I remember when we first left, when you leave with the boat, the departure is very slow. It takes hours just when you stop seeing the land. It was a huge emotional break because I was leaving behind my father, my brother, and my sister, and the only place I knew. And so it was really very painful. But as soon as I stopped seeing Earth, I found total freedom. And I never looked back since that day. A day after we left, I catch a cold. So my mother brought me to the doctor. He's quite fragile, he said. And so I'm going to propose you both to move you both, my mother and I, to a first-class compartment. And there off we went. I got better, and then the ship was my ship. Suddenly I realized that I was not what I thought I was, this shy little kid that I was in Argentina. I was this confident young guy. And it was very, very interesting too, is we were socially upgraded. It was my first experience about being classless. This installation here at the Bloomberg Space is really based on an installation I made in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, in 1966, believe it or not. And I was like in my late teens. I mean, I was very young, so it was all very naive and natural in a way. It was not intellectual, it was just, I wanted to deconstruct sculpture. When you move from room to room, you only see segments of the whole sculpture. And then by the end, you have it in your mind. And I wanted to make it more like a film. Or when you read a book or you look at a film, you don't view the whole thing at once. You don't see the film all in one moment. You see frame after frame. And at the end of the movie, you have in your mind the full construction of the movie. I started paying attention about the syntaxis of movies, why movies are the way they are. And one of the things I was also interested in is how movies represent violence. And I was always interested in why violence is so much part of our society. So then I decided to make a work about violence. And I created a whole story, but the movie was never made. I wanted the movie to exist as stills. I had an actress, I had 2 actors, a cinematographer, the whole crew to make a movie, but it was in stills. And in this case, I emphasize in stills and movies dealing with violence and how violence is represented in images. But in a way, it's interesting, I think, too, because somehow artists, in our own simplicity, we can see somehow a little bit the future. And maybe I saw with the violin tapes of 1975, violence in the future. When I was confronted with this space here, it had similar characteristics to the space in Buenos Aires, that it was a space in between spaces. It's about how spaces change, how rooms change our lives and the way we are and the way we live. And to make a reference to an early experience about rooms, the difference, the way I lived in the third-class compartment to the first-class flat, in the boat was very different. So in a way, it is about somehow the space you live in conditions who becomes very influential in who you are. You walk in an empty room with a few elements, but it's really nothing to pay attention to. So you either go, you reject it and you go away, as many people do, or you stay and you look at the empty space, and when you look at the empty space, you're really looking within at yourself.